Paradigm shift. Tourism beyond COVID-19. Hi, I'm Lorraine Jenks. This is a talk I was going to give in the auditorium at World Travel Market in Cape Town, which of course has been postponed. So here it is as a summary, and thank you to Martin for this lovely opportunity. Let me get started and then I can explain more how it came about. This was for Travel Week, which didn't happen, Tourism Week, and their new In the Know, a launch of a new service that they have called In the Know. So there are two ways of looking at this, either as a full day masterclass, because there are 3 or 4 sections to it, or as 3 or 4 separate workshops. It's a hell of a lot to put into about 20 minutes, obviously. But what we wanted to do is give you a summary of what we're doing, the work that we do, the services that we offer, and our perspective after 35 years in the business of where we've been, where we are now, and where we are going. Please don't take pictures. Some of these images are copyright from Al Gore, and a lot of the images I had to buy for my TEDx talk. Give me a shout if you want any more detail. And we're here for you. So I'm going to get started. Paradigm shift, tourism beyond COVID-19. New guidelines, new norms, parallels between the virus, climate change, and ecocide. How to mitigate, how to prepare, how to adapt, and hopefully how to thrive. So we've been sent to our bedrooms to think about what we're doing. What I did for this workshop is divided into 3. What was happening, where were we just before all this happened? Where are we now with the virus in lockdown? And what can be? What choices are we going to make when this is all over? Quickly a background. I grew up on a very, very ordinary farm with no electricity, a long drop where nobody ever drowned because we fixed it, and we had never seen plastic. Did my gap year in London, Canada, ended up in California in the middle of the hippie era, 1969. Worked for the Environmental Protection Agency where I started my green journey, and then came back, grew wonderful organic herbs, which of course we inhaled. Came back to South Africa. I'm a teacher by profession, but the universe does things to you. Found myself doing the contracts and the purchasing manual for the Southern Sun Hotel Group. And this is a long time. It was over 20 years ago. Nobody knew what I was talking about. I had all the stuff from California about going green, and nobody knew what it was. So I made it my mission to find a greener version of absolutely everything in my purchasing manual. The hotels called me back. I left in a huff after 15 years. 15 years of being patted on the head and called the little green queen. Did a massive recycling exercise for them and no one took any notice. So I actually left and moved to Cape Town. And then ironically, the hotel started calling me back. And I'm a teacher. I would tell them about climate change, going green, sustainability. And my Montessori training made me realize they needed to see, touch, and feel what I was talking about. So I have 2 websites. Hotel stuff is the yellow pages, both of them. No profit for us whatsoever. People list their products there for a small fee. And it's also 20 years old. And it's a leading directory in Africa now. Everything you need in a hotel or anywhere. It happens to say hotel stuff. And I knew who had green products. So we started pulling the green or the eco-friendly. Nothing is 100% green. The greenest we could find. We started pulling them onto a second website called Green Stuff. Both of them huge. 33,000 people use them every single month. And then I thought, these people need to see. So at Hostex, eventually Decorex and some other shows, we booked 100 square meters and got people from the second website to help us furnish these from front to back with only eco-friendly products. Absolutely everything in those projects was eco-friendly. Won 19 awards for our work. Can't believe it, since I turned 70, 19 awards. And these are the people we worked for. Even BBC's Lifestyle came out to one of our projects. So climate change. Climate change and ecocide. This is a whole workshop. If you train with Al Gore, I trained with Al Gore, it's 4 days. But I think most of us are beginning to understand climate change. It means the sun beats down on the earth and we take exactly what we need of that heat and the rest bounces out again. But with the blanket of greenhouse gases surrounding the earth, that heat can't get out and slowly the planet is heating up. The causes, I think we also know, fossil fuels, burning of fossil fuels. Our households, the energy we use in our households, intensive agriculture, we're actually surprised at how big the impact is from agriculture worldwide. And the effects, of course, are extreme weather, floods, drought, insects moving. I got bitten by a botfly, which we don't get in South Africa. It's a Zimbabwean fly that lays its eggs under your skin, and they've moved. They're here already. There's going to be famine. We haven't begun to see migration because of famine. And then the second one is ecocide. You cannot, ever since I've been speaking on these things, I've spoken about both climate change and ecocide because they go hand in hand. Ecocide is the destruction of our ecosystems. It's the construction of the very planet that we need to live on. It is suicide caused by destruction of habitat, deforestation, water and air pollution, killing things that live in the water because of the pollution, toxic agriculture, the chemicals we spray, especially in South Africa, with Roundup on our maize because it's genetically modified. It's criminal. It's the only country in the world. It's banned in 38 other countries. And of course, tragically, the extinction of species. Everything is connected to everything else. So you destroy one tiny species, it has a ripple effect on everything else. So to try and get around this in a practical way, I do a lot of training on green procurement for lots of sectors. Even, I can't believe it, for Chanel, who found me. I still don't know how they found me. I spoke to all their buyers at an AGM in Singapore recently. So how to do it is, let people realize that everything you use every single day impacts the environment. Everything. So, if you stand back, just because we're talking about tourism, the economy doesn't realize the value in tourism. All the cars that the car hire company use, South African made, coaches, minibuses, the petrol we use, the textiles they use in the hotels, furniture, laundry, fresh produce, the alcohol, eggs, 50 million eggs a year, and the foods. Because people are at home, it doesn't mean that they were using less. It's the tourists that come out that use those things that we aren't able to sell at the moment. So when you try to go green and when you try and green procurement, most people understand the carbon audit now. And we're a little bit tired of people saying this is a green building because it's got some solar panels, grey water system, and we recycle. Not enough. We have to think about absolutely everything else that we use. So what we do is we study the life cycle of a product, where it came from, how it was sourced, how it was transported during its manufacture, how did it pollute, did they use slave labor, during its distribution, how was it packaged, and then of course the most important thing is how do you get rid of it? Does it go back into that cycle, or does it just simply get thrown away? And when I sit in front of an audience of 1,000 people who don't want to be there, like all the buyers in the municipal buyers in the Western Cape, to get through to them, I ask them to pretend they're holding a hand of a small child and they're explaining to that child where something came from and how it impacted the whole of his life cycle. And I'm telling you, not an easy thing to do. So consulting is what we do and what I love to do. Visit a hotel, either virtually or we actually go to the hotel. Some of the places we visited, please, if you haven't been to Hotel Verde in the Cape, go and see. It is quite phenomenal. They've got photovoltaic, they've got solar, they've got a natural pool, they've got a lift that reuses itself, they've got wind turbines in the front, they've even got geothermal. Absolutely phenomenal. And the restaurant, they've got a list to tell you how far your food traveled that night. So what we'll do is we'll come to your hotel and then we'll stand back and look at the energy used in every area of the hotel. And this of course should be measured if you want to manage it, and if you want to reduce it, There are wonderful tools and software there to help you measure. And then we'll go through each room. We'll stand back in the lobby, the bedroom, bathroom, your meeting room, your kitchen, your cleaning chemicals, your pool, your food and beverage, and finally your waste. Just while I'm here, I reckon the recycling of plastic is a complete scam, absolute hoax. Hoax, we support it because it's creating awareness, but it is just an absolute scam. Ask me about it and I'll tell you with pleasure. So stand back. Let's say we're in the lobby and we'll say, now, the next time you carpet, you haven't been a bad person. We don't point fingers and say this is wrong. Next time you carpet, just think there could be a better way. Next time you paint in your bedroom, your bed linen, one of the most difficult challenges, because the best linen, like flax, is expensive, but it will outlast absolutely any other bed linen. Your guest amenities in the bathroom, your meeting room, your appliances in your kitchen, your energy efficient appliances, your cleaning chemicals. There's so many options out there that are not toxic. Your pool, food and beverage should be local, indigenous, organic, and waste should be so clearly marked that nobody can make a mistake and put something in the wrong bin. And then, of course, I was a judge for the greenest Villa Lizella, for the greenest hotel, environmentally friendly hotel. So let us help you. We've done it and we've been there. So that was part one, where we were before all this happened. Where are we now? What is now? What is happening now? We are in lockdown. Enter this little creature. And we know, I reckon Ebola, there's a theory, and I'm sure there's a lot to do with all of this, is these creatures have always been, these microorganisms have always been in a deep forest. But now with the trade in wildlife and with the buffer zone, with deforestation, that buffer zone is gone. And those little creatures have hopped right from the deep forest into the villages and then getting exported. And the virus is a dress rehearsal for climate change. This is a practice run for us, for something very similar that's going to happen, just a little bit slower. Follow these people. They're brand new. They're a few weeks old. I think they're based in Australia, Commission for the Human Future. They're doing incredible work. They're focusing on the stuff we're talking about all the time, on natural resources, ecosystem collapse, population control, global warming, food insecurity, pollution, even nuclear warfare, and pandemics. They started before the virus, but their mission is to get corporations and politicians to understand the risks and to be proactive. I think they're going to go places. So half the reason for this workshop is the parallels. I was astonished when I sat back and had a look at the parallels between the coronavirus and climate change and why we've got no excuse going forward. The parallels, both of them gave us advanced warning. Both of them have denialists. Both of them have a disregard for wildlife. They are exposing socioeconomic inequality. Conspiracy theories abound for both. There's a them and us attitude. Not going to happen to us, only happen to them for both. Carelessness for both. For climate change, just pollute, doesn't matter. For the virus, don't bother to wear a mask. Outcome, to predict the outcome is difficult for both. Neither of them can actually give a date or specific statistics for when it will all end. Food shortage, immediate with the virus, slower with climate change. Mental illness for both. There's already a section of psychology for people depressed about climate change. And both of them, huge arguments about a cure being worse than the problem. The differences are the speed. The virus was instantaneous, climate change is much slower. The economic impact is different. Clear strategies cannot be, are different. The strategies for the virus were clear and for climate change not so. Mitigation severity, very severe for the virus. People not taking it seriously enough for climate. And pollution, we hoped that pollution would improve with the virus, but unfortunately, in our homes, we are still creating far too many greenhouse gases. So where to from now? We won't go back to normal because normal was actually the problem. The paradigm shift in tourism means break the traditional way of thinking, see the composite picture in a completely different way and gain a new perspective. The head of the United Nations said the pandemic is the biggest threat the world has faced since World War II, but the environmental emergency is deeper. Tips that we researched. I just read everything I could lay my hands on. I don't know how many newspapers, articles, discussions on Facebook, on other social media platforms, emails that came through, newsletters that went out, webinars, workshops, one after the other, put them all in a great big file, and then distilled them, sorted them out in some top topics. And I have a workshop, which I'll come and do in far more detail for you, if you like. What we're saying to the people listed on our directories, in good times, people want to advertise. In bad times, they have to advertise. Tough times never last, but tough people do. Stopping advertising to save money is like stopping your watch to save time. Anybody in advertising will tell you this. Doing business without advertising is like winking at a girl in the dark. You know what you're doing, but nobody else does. So to advertise or not. It's a huge decision. We're all in the same boat, all of us. It is a time to listen to the experts. You need to send out an image of stability. People want to be reassured. The costs are lower to advertise. You must stay visible. Reassure your customers that you're doing fine. Safeguard future sales. People have got time at the moment. Time to research alternative products, alternative destinations. And we've seen a surprising percentage of people continuing to use our websites because they're sitting at home looking for new options. And then last week, World Travel Market had a really wonderful webinar on how to advertise. It was really so well done. They were saying, think about your audience. Everything's changed. No more glossy visuals. People are looking at a small screen now. Think of the people that want to, where do they want to go immediately? Where's the first place they want to go and visit? Don't forget the future. They are still planning ahead. And how does it make them feel? People have had time to think about the emotional side of their lives and how this is impacted by the decisions that we make. And people want to go where they think no other people are going. Oh, that's sweet. So destination guidelines, another, God, this is so fluid. It changes by the day. If you're following any of the Facebook groups, and wonderful, the dates are absolutely wonderful. So what I did was I thought, I wonder where people are going to go first the minute they can get out. They're going to go to museums, water parks, aquaria. They're going to go on safari. Conferences or meetings are going to start again. They're going to go to the right hotels and hopefully can't wait to get out into restaurants. And for all of these, the basic standards are actually the same for the big venues. Thermal scanning on arrival, an ability to track any people who were there in case somebody turns out to get ill. Masks, no gloves. Gloves, what did I say? Gloves are for surgeons doing operations. It's like a second skin on your hands. Everything you touch with those gloves is contaminating your hands. Have an isolation facility. Have the equipment and protective gear if you're going to need it. Of course, sanitize everything you possibly can. 6 foot distance worldwide. Maximum 50 people, pretty much standard. Cashless, standard. And of course, no shaking of hands. Safaris, really difficult. People are saying only half the number of passengers per vehicle. Everybody to bring their own cup saucers and no sharing of things like binoculars. Meetings, you must improve insurance. You must insure everything you possibly can. I mean, the argument is how will someone be able to say they got infected at your conference? But your suppliers, the people that make the deliveries, your staff, your employees, your exhibitors, your visitors, your delegates, everybody must be insured. Everyone must bring their own water bottles, notebooks, and pens. Lectern, of course, sanitized every time someone goes up, and the mobile roving microphone to be handled by only one person. Hotels, some interesting thing. Hilton was one of the first to send out guidelines. Shoes off. Some hotels have got no door handles. Some have got no door. The doorman won't open your taxi door. No valet, no bellhop. Carry your own luggage. And then on arrival, Reception will have a glass screen if she's there. No concierge. You will use a new app called Whistle for things that you need. No check-in. You will check in with your phone. No staff to show you around. And the most visible people are going to be the housekeepers and the cleaners. And then the most commonly touched areas in a hotel room, cleaned several times a day. No mini bar, no marketing materials. A safety kit waiting for you on arrival with masks and wet wipes for you. Your bedding in some of the hotels, I mean, a bit extreme. Actually, I think it's a bit extreme. Your bedding is in a sealed bag on your bed. You make your own bed. Some of them are not letting the housekeepers, after you've left, in until 72 hours after you've left, 24 to 72 hours. Cleaning, ultraviolet robots, please, please. My son is a physicist. He says the ultraviolet is so dangerous. So if you have the robot or the machines, you have to have special goggles and get out of the way. We used to use ozone a lot, but that's mostly for bad odors like smoking. Electrostatic sprayers are becoming more commonly used, and there's a new system called titanium surface spray, which puts a coating of titanium on your hard surfaces, and it lasts a whole lot longer. You don't have to sanitize it as often. What some of the hotels are doing with food is they're saying you have to pick up, I mean, I have to laugh, you have to pick up your breakfast in a paper bag and take it back to your room service for dinner, and of course no buffet for a while to come. And the restaurant, food is delivered or you order it and go and pick it up. Distance seating, outdoors preferable. Dishwash at high temperatures, your dishes and your table linen, and filtered municipal water, so you're not delivering dozens of plastic bottles. And then you cannot sanitize everything in your hotel as well. You can't sanitize everything that you've bought or anything that's delivered. Just leave it at the door, outside or in an entrance area for 48 hours. And the bug cannot live for more than 48 hours. Don't believe all those extreme statistics. They just want to sell their products. And then airline travel, IATA sent out a very, very good list saying how safe it actually is. You know, they use hospital standard HEPA or HEPA, however you pronounce it, filters. And the air is changed regularly, 50% fresh air from outside, 50% recycled. And have materials that are easy to clean in the plane. So there's new thinking on airline travel. Somebody suggested 2 seats forward, 2 seats back. IATA says they don't even think that's necessary. Your air, your fresh air comes from the top, so everything's blown down. So any droplets in the air are blown down onto the floor. A fun way to have dinner. And this was on CNN recently. I've seen it in other places since then. That yellow seat, that fellow was infected. He had 2 people next to him, 2 opposite him. He had 2 at the next table and 3 behind him. Everybody in that restaurant was infected. So resources to use. The TPCSA has come out with an absolutely phenomenal booklet. The detail is brilliant. So get it, they're updating it regularly. You can get it, download it online as a PDF, and everything you can possibly think of for every area of your facility. If you like statistics, Ipso have done some incredible research about who wants to travel, when, where, and how, if you're interested in numbers. National Geographic, 2 weeks ago, did a study saying, would you jump in a plane right now? 2% said yes. Would you fly later this year? 8% said yes. I wonder how long that's going to last. So part 3, where we've been, where we are now, and where we can go if we do things right. Where were we before all this started? Lest we forget the other crisis. There's been so much focus only on the virus, on the news, we forget what's happening in other parts of the world. Climate change is here. I was speaking in Cape Town a year ago at what's called Century City, and they had that monster storm. I was stuck in my hotel for 2 days and 2 nights. Climate change is here. It was a terrible storm because it was worse than usual because of climate change. That very same night, my friend's house was burning down in Knysna, and she was trying to get through the fire down to the beach. rescued a lady with a parrot and 2 dogs on the way down that very same night. Then they had the terrible floods in Mozambique. They had those terrible storms in New York. My daughter was there, couldn't leave her, she wasn't allowed to leave her town. They were also in France, in Paris last year. It was so hot that instead of sightseeing, they were finding fountains and ponds to dip their baby in. They were traveling with their baby. So climate change is here. Adapt or die. A workshop that we run for the hotel, for the tourism industry. I've run this now in Kenya 3 times, Ghana, Zambia, soon in Nigeria, and South Africa. I don't know why we're not thinking ahead. We are not ready. We have to begin to prepare and adapt. Intelligence is the ability to adapt to change. Let me come and do this workshop for you. It will open your eyes, things you haven't thought of. Think of if you're a hotel in your city, what has your city done if there is extreme weather? Have they got paving where the water can sink away instead of running off into the stormwater drains? Have they got enough shade? In India, a lot of the people died because being misdiagnosed as a heart attack. So once the medics were properly trained, they had far less deaths the year after. Your hotel, be ready for people to come off the street. That night we were stuck. People were coming off the street because you couldn't drive. There was no way you could walk. All the planes were grounded. The trains were all gone. So the hotel was ready for sewage to be bubbling up. Think of the worst and plan for the best. Impact on tourism. You know that animals and plants, did you know? Animals and plants are moving 14 feet every day away from the equator. So in tourism, our seasons are changing. Our hunting season, our birding season, our fishing season, our high season is changing. New insects are arriving. Are your staff ready to recognize these changes? I do a lot of work in retail, so shopping malls need to be ready. Supply chain, one thing the virus has taught us is that we have not studied our supply chain adequately. If you've got a herb in your medication that comes from the Congo, comes from Amazon, and Bolsonaro, he's worse than Trump, he's burning down that section of the Amazon. Does your supplier know where to get that herb elsewhere? You need to know all of that as well. And are they trying to green and make more sustainable choices the whole way through that supply chain? Your emergency survival kit, you need 2. You need one for if you're stuck indoors and one for if you have to escape out. Your emergency pantry, also different. For the virus, we could still get perishables. If it's a weather event, you have to think of those as well. Agriculture must be turned on its head. There are so many foods that aren't going to survive climate. I'll talk about that in a minute. And your food and catering. Got to have a whole new focus on food and catering. I do a special study with Slow Food International on the foods that will survive, because within the next 20 years, the staple foods we know now will not be available. So we must start cultivating and protecting our indigenous heritage foods. The chefs must start cooking them, and the tourists must start getting used to eating them. And people will always say, it's more expensive. So I thought, I wonder if it is. I ran a full conference and an academic double-blind exercise at Fruleaf Chefs Academy. We had 8 speakers. We had 80 executive chefs and caterers. We had a sit-down lunch after all the speakers had given their talk. And they cooked 2 meals in the kitchen. One was an nguni, roast from an nguni cow, and an identical roast from the supermarket, and identical veggies, organic veggies, identical veggies from the supermarket, cooked identically, measured, weighed, even the juice in the dishes was weighed the whole way down the cooking process. Very expensive for the organic food, but I knew this would happen. Once it was cooked and on the plate, that plate of good organic food was 15 rand cheaper than the industrial food. Ask me why. So bits of good news. There is good news. We are resilient. Tourism and hospitality people are multi-skilled. We must start using non-traditional media. Use your local radio stations. We must restore confidence. We must clear misconceptions about the scale of the virus in Africa. We've really done jolly well. Perpetuate the caring and the sharing that's developed during this lockdown. Promote domestic tourism, concentrate on the growing African middle class. And this is important that we thought of the other day. In fact, the woman from the United Nations said we must push the fact that tourism is helping to protect our wildlife. It's helping to reduce poaching. And with the new altruistic attitude people are developing, I think that could be a good selling point. Start looking locally. You know, when I came back to Johannesburg, I didn't really want to come back here. So I thought, let me discover my city. I went to our art gallery. You know, our art gallery is world class. We have Rembrandt. We have Van Gogh. We have the most fabulous art gallery. I went to the Rand Club. I went to all the new gentrified areas. Amazed at my city. So get to know. In England, every little village has some interest groups. Things like bell ringing. Most people don't even know the interest groups they've got in their own area. The museums, the parks, the libraries, the restaurants. Some of the restaurants are delivering food to you, and then they've got a camcorder in the kitchen where they explain the menu, they explain how they cooked your meal, they explain the ethnicity of their food and the heritage of the foods from the area that they represent. The positives from the coronavirus, there have to be some. Respect for science. I think there's been an awakening. Protection of nature. Global community thinking, like after the war, there's beating of pans and things. We must preserve that. Social justice is improving. Improved healthcare because the people who got sickest were the people in the worst areas. Same with climate change. Healthier neighborhoods. Post-war community values. And of course, hopefully, a ban on wild animal trade. And the very good news. There's good news for us, guys. We're going to make it. It's the weak rand. Low virus deaths. Rock bottom oil prices. Rapid testing that we have here, because we've got experience with Ebola. Wide open spaces. Everybody is craving wide open spaces. And the new altruistic attitude. Choices. Every time we make a choice, there are two ways. There's the old way. There's no way that's bad. There's no totally wrong. There's always a better way. Stand back, think about it, ask for advice, and choose the better way. Use our websites. They are completely free. We don't take commission on any sales that go through them. And they are amazing stories. I don't know if I told you about the little lady with no electricity. Did I tell you? Who had no phone and no computer. So I put my phone number on the website because we don't know who uses the website. It's like the yellow pages. I put her mosquitoes on there with my phone. And you know who phoned for her mosquito nets? Sir Richard Branson and his housekeeper. So, nice stories there. So call me. Email me. I'm not very good at answering my phone. Email me. Give us a shout. Let us come and sit with you. Hear what you need. Hear where the gaps are. Most of us are way on our way to where we need to go. There's just a little bit more that you need to know to get to the highest compliance. Let us run workshops for you. It's what we do, what we've done for the last 30 odd years. And then here's the thing. This is what they tell us to do. Shower with a friend, stop using plastic, go cycling, get LEDs, go vegan. It's not enough. It's not enough. Your job now is to go out there and tell them what to do. The big decision makers, the corporates and the governments, you must push. You must push for them to increase carbon tax to the polluters, the big guys. They must bring in renewable energy. Already, Al Gore spoke to us, the people that he trained, yesterday, in fact, and said there's some wonderful movement towards renewable energy worldwide. Agriculture must change. They must start reforesting. Wherever the forests have been taken down, they must reforest. You don't go and plant trees anywhere, because like in the savannah, you don't want trees. It has its own ecosystem. Carbon capture is happening, but it must increase. And of course, solar geoengineering, a little bit sort of science fiction-y, but it's going to happen, like seeding the clouds so that the heat can reflect back out into space. And then this is what you can do. This is what you take away today. Reduce fossil fuels. You know these things. Save water. These you know. Eat less meat. challenge palm oil. My daughter asked where the palm oil came from one of our top chocolate makers, and they couldn't tell her. They couldn't tell her. And they said they just use a little bit. And she said, but you make tons of chocolate. So some of those tons must be palm oil. Refuse plastic. Just refuse it. And they will find something else. If they can fly someone to the moon, they can bloody invent an alternative for plastic. And then insist to know where your food comes from. And then sign petitions. This is what you really can do. They work. They really work. Avaz is very successful. Sponsor people like Greenpeace. They need your money, and they really are doing good work. And boycott. Stop using their bad products. People don't even know. Head and Shoulders have boycotted for a while. It was very quietly done. But Procter & Gamble changed the recipe. And then vote. The minute you can vote, get out and vote. So people are saying, all we're doing is moving the deck chairs around on the Titanic. And many are saying we're headed for something worse than the Great Depression. I'm afraid we actually are. But you know what turned the Great Depression around? Who knows? What turned it around? World War II. Because we had a common purpose and we had a common enemy. So this is what the virus has taught us. And this is how we absolutely have to start thinking about climate change. We have to make it a common enemy, and we have to have a global common purpose. Start our Marshall Plan of motivation. So be a disruptive activist. You can do it. Just be a nuisance. Don't break the law. Just be a nuisance and be noticed and speak up. Every time you use these products, and of course lots of the cosmetics, you are responsible for the death of 25 orangutans every day. So demand to know, because you know your customers are watching you. And most important of all, your children are watching you. And they're going to say, you know, you knew. What did you do? Thank you.